Good evening, and now your news for the West. I'm Kylie Pentelow. First tonight, an inquest has heard dramatic details of how an oxygen cylinder exploded on the bed of a 79-year-old woman. Kathleen Haynes was being treated at the Royal United Hospital in Bath. Her son told the hearing his mother repeatedly said that after the blast, all she wanted was to die. Richard Payne reports.
Kathleen Haynes was admitted to hospital in November 2011 after collapsing at her home in Frome. She had problems with her kidneys, liver and gallbladder, a high heart rate and low blood pressure. She was moved to the RUH's intensive care unit where her condition continued to deteriorate. The pensioner was within hours of being transferred to Bristol Royal Infirmary for specialist care when an oxygen cylinder placed on her bed exploded. Dr. Fiona Kelly was on duty and told the inquest she heard an incredibly loud bang, like the roar of an aircraft engine. Seconds later, flames and thick black smoke filled the room. Struggling to control her emotions, Dr. Kelly described a frantic scene. "I was very concerned," she said, "that at any time the entire ICU could explode. I saw Mrs. Haynes against a wall looking bewildered. She was incredibly grey. There was equipment strewn around and blood on the floor and a sea of patients outside." Coroner Maria Voisin gave a narrative verdict saying Kathleen Haynes died of natural causes contributed to by the burns she suffered. David Haynes said after the fire his mother suffered bad psychological effects, saying she told him she didn't want to be fed, only to die. Speaking through their solicitor, the family gave this reaction.
The accident involving Kathleen Haynes has resulted in very significant changes to both the handling and use of oxygen gas cylinders throughout the NHS. At this point, the family are content with the verdict recorded by the coroner today.
Dr. Timothy Burge, a burns specialist at Frenchay Hospital near Bristol, said he thought Mrs. Haynes' burns must have contributed to her death, but to a relatively small degree. The RUH tonight offered its apologies to the family and added, "Since the incident, we have implemented a range of extra safety precautions, such as storing cylinders in brackets at the end of beds and carrying out daily checks on them to ensure they are all turned off when in storage." Mrs. Haynes' family are considering any civil claim while the full case of the explosion continues to be investigated. Richard Payne, ITV News, Avon Coroner's Court.
And there will be more on the future of health services in our region in our political discussion programme with Alistair Stewart. That's in an hour's time. On to other news now, and the Australian radio presenters behind a prank phone call that may have led to the suicide of a nurse from Bristol could face prosecution. The pair rang the hospital treating the Duchess of Cambridge during the early stages of her pregnancy. The call was taken by Jacintha Saldana, who killed herself 3 days later. Now, Scotland Yard has asked the Australian police to consider whether the DJs committed any offence under Australian law. A care worker from Gloucestershire faces jail after being convicted of ill-treating 3 residents. Brent Morgan stood on the feet of one of the residents and forced his fingers into the mouth of another at the Woodlands care home in Longhope. Morgan denied all 6 charges of ill-treatment but was found guilty. The driver of a motorhome that hit a group of pedestrians, seriously injuring a girl from Bristol, has been arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving. The German man drove the wrong way down a one-way street in East Devon. The teenage girl was airlifted to hospital. The driver has now been released on bail. There's anger in Somerset tonight at the temporary closure of the A371 near Castle Carey. It's forcing some motorists to take a 17-mile diversion. Duncan Slightholme has more.
The signs are pretty clear. The A371 is closed. But despite the fact that message is repeated for several miles, as we filmed, a number of vehicles still had a surprise and the challenge of a 3-point turn on a narrow road. It causes a particular problem for one of Shepton Mallet's biggest employers, the haulage firm Frampton's. 15 times a day the firm's lorries travel down the A371 and back, collecting pet food from a manufacturer in Castle Carey. But for the next 4 months or so, they're having to make a long diversion. Frampton's depot is on the edge of Shepton Mallet. Their biggest customer, the pet food manufacturer, is on the edge of Castle Carey. It's normally a distance of around 8 miles. However, the A371 is closed just south of Castle Carey railway station. And to avoid a low bridge on the A37, big lorries now have to go via Sparkford, the A303 and Somerton before returning to the A37 and Shepton Mallet. In Castle Carey, residents are waiting to feel the full impact. The town is now cut off from its own railway station. Getting there or anywhere north will involve a long detour.
Got to do it again now, and I have to do that twice a day every day, so that's like 50 miles a day extra.
Obviously the length of time that it is closed for is ridiculous.
Network Rail apologises for the inconvenience but says the work is vital to repair and strengthen the railway bridge. It says replacing the bridge would have taken as long but wasn't viable. No one was available for interview. Meanwhile, businesses like Frampton's are left counting the cost. Duncan Saito, ITV News, Castle Carey.
Now it's time to take a quick look at the weather. Here's Kate.
Good evening. Well, after slightly cooler weather today, it warms up once again as we go over the weekend. Lots of sunshine on offer, perhaps a bit more cloud around at times, but it's certainly not going to spoil things too much. As far as tonight is concerned, it'll be dry with clear skies, perhaps a little bit of cloud from time to time, particularly through the Bristol Channel, but otherwise a clear night and temperatures keeping mild at around 11 or 12 Celsius. So tomorrow morning, perhaps a few bits and pieces of cloud around first thing, but generally a lot of sunshine on offer once again, and temperatures rising pretty quickly into the afternoon as that cloud burns off, and highs around 25 Celsius inland. Fairly light winds, so not a lot of respite along the coast, but hopefully feeling a touch cooler if you need to escape that heat. Of course, UV levels will be high in all that lovely sunshine. So looking further ahead, and as I said, the weekend looking hot. Highs of 27 Celsius on Saturday, 25 on Sunday, and all that lovely sunshine. Light winds, so not a lot of respite, I'm afraid, and feeling pretty hot inland. And on Monday, cooling off ever so slightly. I think we'll see a bit more in the way of cloud, more sunny spells than unbroken sunshine, and highs reaching around 22 Celsius at best. That's all from me. Good night.
Looks good, doesn't it? And that is all from the late team for now. We'll be back tomorrow morning during daybreak. From all of us here, whatever you're doing, have a good evening. Good night.